Welcome back to It Tastes Like Burning. This Matt.
This is Jesse.
And per the perfidibles and normal filigree of giving you the pomp and circumstance, introduction?
Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah.
You can always find us on YouTube at It Tastes Like Burning Cast. If you ever have questions, concerns, comments, issues, theories, conjectures, interjections, or just downright want to talk, you can find us at ittasteslikeburningcast at gmail.com. Theoretically, we will have more guests in the future. We've already got like 35 lined up. We just are doing a terrible job of following through with them. We do appreciate all their time and patience. And we always have our merch store. Hooray!
Yeah, yep.
You
Get
can,
the candle, the scented candle.
yeah. And the It Tastes Like Burning jockstrap.
Yeah, yeah,
Fresh, not pre-worn.
yeah,
That'd be weird.
yeah. Well, we can probably get the autograph printed on the jock strap.
Hmm.
Yeah, that would be a thing.
Get the white paint pen out.
Well, no, we'll just design it into the image so it comes that way.
So we don't even have to sign it.
Right.
Better.
Yeah, it's even better.
Yeah. Because it's weird signing that in public.
Yeah. Only if it's on.
So we are once again shooting from the hip. And we're going to start off boring for just a few minutes. We were sitting down just kind of looking at some of our insurance stuff and ended up reaching out to our local VFIS agent, who's a godsend and really helpful and been in the fire service a long time. And he understands the importance of insurance and how it works. And he's got quite a story. Really good guy. And I've managed to meet a whole bunch of different of the VFIS reps here in Texas. And oddly enough, they're all like weirdly good people and attached to the fire service. And, they're,
I think that's by design.
it's like they actually do care and they do want to help you. Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's unusual for the insurance industry where you're just not a number or another policy holder. This particular agent, as we were talking, he was kind of giving us some recommendations and things to look at. And I'll grab the list real quick. And like I said, I'm not going to go in great detail in any of this because even we won't talk about this for an hour. But we're just looking at getting probably be better if I just go to the back of this whole thing. A premium summary for property, crime, portable equipment, auto, general liability, management liability, and excess liability. And the total premium is shockingly very low.
Yeah.
It's four figures and not even half of 10,000.
Yeah.
So, and there's some really good stuff in there that's just, the proverbial insurance.
Well,
You don't have it till you need it.
so we kind of hang it out there sometimes on some of this stuff, and there's some protections by statute and different things, but just like the liability side of things, and the management liability and the general liability and the liability for it's basically a malpractice liability coverage, right? That can be pretty important in what we do. I mean, I I have heard tell of departments burning down the wrong house for training.
Oh, we featured on Paul Harvey like 30 years ago because we did that in Granbury.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, something like that where some insurance might come in handy, right?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to ask the insurance agent this question. So I know of an absolute horror story of training that went awry in, I'm pretty sure it was Wisconsin. Uh, at the end of the day, they had a house they were burning in. Winds were high, couch, tires. Might as well just throw like a dump truck full of petroleum inside the garage. Garage doors cracked open. Wind is on that side. Fire crews make entry on the downwind side of the house, and it goes very south very quick. Mass chaos. God, if I remember correctly, I think one or two of the four firefighters died. The two that survived. No, I can't. I can't attest to that. I do know one of the firefighters made a rescue, and the other firefighter was just burnt really bad. And at the end of the day, uh, the only reason the assistant chief didn't go to jail was because there was an email from him to the training captain at the time talking about don't be retarded and load the garage with a whole bunch of bad fuel. And if the wind's high, don't burn that day.
Right. And there you go. Now you have it, the rest of the story.
Yeah. And everyone else, chief wasn't there. Like, in fact, I even think the chief was out on vacation or medical leave. He didn't even know about it. And he ended up, I don't think he went to jail,
But
but
that's
he got destroyed in court, which is, well, quite frankly, that's why you're there as chief. So,
that's where these standards come from, right? That's where, like, 1403, that, stuff like that, it's written in blood,
right.
you
Oh,
know.
yeah. Now that's something, don't get me wrong. I always complain as bad as anyone else about, like, particularly the FAA. But what people don't understand about these regs, they're not there as preventative. They're there from an after action report. So that's how that works. And unfortunately, that is our system.
Yeah, something bad happens, somebody makes a rule, they're named after somebody, it's a vicious cycle. And we do that inside of our own organizations for the most part. That's typically how rules are created, right? They're reactionary to some incident that happened, because prior to that you didn't need a rule. But
Right.
it just so surfaces that you can't take out an electric meter with a trash hook.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the right way to do it.
Now there's many creative and interesting rules that in hindsight you're like, yeah, that probably should have been a rule, but I can't believe someone actually did it.
Right.
Well, you just haven't been around long enough. So, yeah, I like I said, I don't want to beat the insurance discussion to death. Even we won't go too far down this road.
But I've got some curiosity. I mean, like that management insurance, that's intriguing to me. That's protecting your officers and your boards and whatnot. Who out there has that? I mean, if you've got that at your department and it's bailed you out at some point, or the thefts
Yeah,
insurance,
the
treasures.
treasurer's insurance.
Yeah, let us know about that, because
I know
we're
of two
genuinely
departments that could have used that
right. Yeah,
in hindsight.
in hindsight. And we're talking about insurance that has premiums in the hundreds of dollars a year
Yeah,
kind of range.
low hundreds.
Yeah. So if you guys are carrying that insurance and it's beneficial, or it's been beneficial, or you see it as an asset, let us know about that, because that helps us make our decisions and grow. This whole thing can be a two-way street. I know we're the ones bloviating on the other end of the radio, or the car, or whatever you're listening to us on, phone,
The megaphone.
megaphone, the Victrola.
Mm,
Yeah, the vernacular is strong in this episode. Yeah.
don't tempt me.
But you're the ones that are generally receiving the stuff, but help us figure some of these things out. That's kind of how this can really sprout to the next level of participation. And it goes even with the folks that reach out. We had somebody reach out this week that uh reached through a different channel, reached through the department channel. But
Okay. I was like,
yeah,
what?
but
What?
just genuinely wanting to know more about our website and our website design, and how we came up with what we did and how effective it was. And I don't want to go back all through that again, but it's chronicled pretty well through several episodes of this podcast of how successful the website has been to recruiting specifically. And as we grow and develop and have different needs, that that website can be tailored to adjust to help fill those needs, right?
Ideally,
Yeah, that's kind of the whole point of it, and having the flexibility of having a team.
that's the only thing that I wish we had more of from the podcast is that we would get more, for a lack of better words, general input uh, from, we'll call it the community at large. And there's so many questions that I stumble into each day and then promptly forget. Uh, and there's no way that if I'm randomly driving around and have that question that other people don't also. And I can assure you, like, there's really important things that we don't even think about talking about and we miss all the time.
Yeah. So, oh, yeah.
We had a man down moment there. We had to close the curtains and button down the hatches, and I had to tear off and take care of business.
Yeah,
So
happens.
we're back.
What
It,
about my back?
yeah, that's that's that wasn't supposed to be online,
Yeah.
but now that it is, so yeah, insurance. Reach out to us if anyone's working on any of that. I know it's not awesome, but it's important. With that said, what else you got, Jesse?
Uh, other than fine wintergreen smokeless tobacco?
Ooh, do you need to step out to the G wagon to?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Interesting conversation with the kid with the website this week, and also a Texas fire department.
Yeah.
I
I,
didn't ask permission to talk about it on here, so I won't necessarily oust them or anything. But uh, I think it's kind of, and I just came off of the conversation about not going through all of it again, but that the fact that we do budget money for marketing and allocate funds to that for that specific purpose and have outcomes because of that, right? That's kind of the first step. And whether you're going to budget $1 or $10,000 to that purpose, measure the outcomes and make sure it's worth it.
right. And part of that measuring outcomes part is make sure that the desired outcome is within whatever personalized onboarding slash task that you're saying you're going to be able to do for the organization. My point is if you say you can build a website and you actually don't know how to build a website, then don't say you're going to build a website. Don't do that. Avoid that if at all possible and at all costs. You can find someone else that can do it more cost effective. The
Yeah.
classic bang for the buck.
You bounced all around the state this week.
Yeah, I was down in South Central Texas all week and then bounced up into West Texas. Texas is there's a lot of really good things that are going on in this state right now. ESDs are really starting to become a thing in Texas. There are some that are run really, really, really exceptionally well. And then there are some that, in my very idiot, highly biased opinion, that they probably needed a little more foundational work before they ever formed their ESD. Um, the common unilateral goal between success or roughness is the board. That is the difference. It's not even the fire chief. It's not even the department's willingness to accept the ESD. it is the board's ESD, or let me phrase that, the board over the ESD. Um, if you have a really strong board, that ESD is going to be fine. Uh, Short term, medium term, long term. You have a really weak board, then that ESD is going to be on a really rocky start, and it doesn't matter how strong or how weak the departments being served or serving that ESD are. Um, it's a touchy subject. Uh, I would love to get a couple of different people in here from kind of both sides of the argument on that. But the problem is that we need like voice changers and
Yeah,
like
it's
there's no way they could really talk remotely anonymously, uh, if they were in a struggling ESD.
right.
So with that said, you just got to kind of listen to us yammer on about an ESD, and we're not even in one. But
Yeah, and it's I don't know. There is a place where that's needed and that's part of it. I think the propensity to to go as ESD with the purpose of fixing your funding problems, right?
right,
That's a big part of it. But using it to try to fix your membership problems is probably not the answer.
yeah, no, I it really boils down to this, and this is true for an ESD, but even most basic departments. What are you actually trying to fix? What are you actually trying to fix? Do you really need to create a taxing entity that is going to be there as a theoretical burden, possibly in your community, to magically solve the membership problem? Because here's the issue: most communities in the United States are going to be middle class or lower. Okay. And if the volunteer fire department's having a hard time finding anyone to work, then what luck is that ESD going to have? And then on top of that, what about the local businesses? What is fast food? Are they having a hard time finding workers? Is local construction companies having a hard time finding workers? Is local corporate, your banks and whatever, electrical companies and on and
Well,
on, are they having a hard time finding workers? So if that's the case, what makes you think that you're just going to readily find firefighters that are going to fall out of the tree and magically start working at your newly created ESD?
for probably subpar pay
Right.
for the industry. I mean, and the reality is I'm going to say something terrible and don't kill me for it, but the middle of nowhere ESD department that's nowhere near a city center or a metropolitan area. Let's just take something out in the absolute middle of West Texas. Do you think they're going to attract the best and the brightest?
No, but here's why. At the end of the day, it's going to be based on the paycheck. Okay. And
Well, it's not just that, but the the good ones are gonna get the job in the city where there's the amenities and where there's the things to do and the place to be involved in whatever 19 other things they want to be involved in.
people take jobs because of pay. Once they have that job, they don't leave because of pay.
Now they leave because of leadership.
Right. Okay, but there's a distinct delineation line on this.
Yeah, nobody quits a job, they quit a boss.
Take your exact scenario, and let's pretend that there's a small municipal city there, not big, okay? But let's say they start out at 57,000 a year, which in our area is low,
Right.
okay? Or the newly formed DSD starts out at $14 an hour for a paramedic firefighter. but McDonald's pays 19 an hour. Where the hell are you going to work? Well, you're, at the bare minimum, you're going to work at the city and then pick up overtime at McDonald's.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to do. I just the this is the quintessential ESD problem
Well,
is
and I'm an example of that because I recently took a part-time gig at a career department, right? And I chose where to go, one, based upon the department itself, but two, based upon the pay.
but you're also, I don't mean to throw shade at you. You're also older.
Well, no, I describe myself as seasoned.
We'll go
I
with
have
season.
chrome
Okay.
in my hair.
So you're not 19.
No,
You're not 20.
right,
You're not looking at your first job. You're not too interested in running 35 structure fires a week.
right.
Okay. Fact, well, we'll just move on past that. There's a difference there with you just strictly because you do have experience. You've already had, I hate to use this word, but you've seen structure fire. Okay. It's not a driving motivating factor for you in a department that you're going to pick. It would make sense that you, as more seasoned, is going to be a little more interested in benefits, a little more interested in
Pay.
pay, particularly that, pay and benefits, and then ultimately pace of the department. Oddly enough, you didn't go to the largest fire department in the United States.
No, no,
You
not
know,
at all.
you picked a department that was where you knew people, you already knew the organization, you knew the pace of the organization, and I can guarantee you were hired on that.
No, yeah, totally. And in fact, one of the conversations that came up was, you know, I have I have a position here, right? So I'm an assistant chief at Granbury, and I have rank. And one of the questions was, how does that affect you working at this other place? And I'm like, if you came to us to be a volunteer, would you want to be a chief? And the chiefs looked at each other and looked at me and said, hell no. And I said, exactly. Like, there's only so much of that crap you can stand, right? And I say crap, but that there's headache and there's stress and there's things that are involved in being a chief, and you've got to look at your watch to see what the next call is to make
Right.
sure that who's around is available and capable and all those things, and it is what it is, and you don't want to have to carry the burden of that everywhere you go.
I truly believe that the chief here for us should always be volunteer. I do see a time at some point, near or far, where the administrative side's probably going to be taken over by whoever, an ESD, the city, whatever. Okay. There's there's only so much that someone can do volunteer, whether you work a full-time job
Right.
or whether you are retired.
At some point there's give and take and something has to give, right?
Right.
And we're lucky that we have a good group of people that can carry and share the load and balance it out to some extent and spread that around. But that's not always the case, and it's not always going to
Right.
be
Well,
the case.
I would argue that there's the department got big.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no way that we could function today like we functioned in 2020.
No.
Like
No, it'd eat
there's
somebody alive.
well, it's not fair. It's not. I mean, like what you would be asking that person to sacrifice today versus 2020, they're not even comparable. It's not. It's a great fear for me for because I can assure you I'm not a lifelong chief. I truly fear for whatever poor, stupid individual follows after me because they have no clue at how terrible it'll be. The
And it
difference is that we made a change this year that made such a gigantic difference for me.
well, it for the department as a whole.
Yeah.
For you, me, just the membership, it even though it met resistance early on and it was not understood, I truly believe that coming out of the backside of it, and we're only 3 months out, right?
Hmm.
Not even 3 months. We're 2.5 months out of it, out of this change. And the consensus is, why didn't we do this sooner?
Right.
You guys were right. And oddly enough, we didn't come up with this on a whim. I mean, there was a lot of thought and uh, kind of analysis that went into it and how it was going to be structured, how it would work uh, to get the desired outcome. And that's that's part of all of it. I mean, you've got to weigh things and figure it out. It's not just. And I know we had an episode here a while back about recruiting that was called "Throw Pasta at the Wall," but when you're making organizational changes, you can't just throw pasta at the wall. You can
No.
do that for recruiting, very
Yeah.
much so, right? But you've got to be pretty deliberate and organized in what you're trying to do. And it took 30 days for everybody to grow into their new positions and understand. But the next 30 days, boy, it was hit the ground running.
Mhm. Yeah. And I mean, and then but that's like one single facet of the bowl of pasta. And the bowl of pasta is 40 feet across and 10 feet deep.
Right.
And it's, yeah, the span of control. And I'm telling you, not just because we're bigger, you, it was shocking at how big of a difference it made for me once we relinquished span of control, you know. And I'm not a big micromanager at all. And like just being able to put battalion chiefs in there and say, look, this is your field. You tend to it however you want. I'm going to order the fertilizer and I'm going to schedule the water.
And you see that field over there?
Yeah.
That's where I grow my fucks.
Yeah. Notice how it's barren. And that's a big part of this is being able to take something like operations completely off of the chief and the assistant chief and just say, here, here's your operations chief. Oh, here's your operations captain. Here's your operations lieutenant. Damn it, do not ask me to make a decision. Tell me what you want.
Right.
If it's truly absurd, I might throw up a red flag. Past that, let's see.
And
Because I'm all about new ideas and trying crap out.
the thing that the big difference I've noticed is that it gave, and this is way deeper than probably what you'd even think about it, but it gave those people a different pride of ownership,
Oh,
right?
sure. No, no, no. I did think of that.
It 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 gave them a buy-in to something that they actually have. It's not this mother may I mentality, and through that process, man, they've latched onto it. The guy that wouldn't the two, well, both of them were terrible at delegating, to be honest with you. Both of those two guys that were terrible at delegating as captains embraced delegating as battalion chiefs and moved on into a world of managing stuff
Right.
versus uh basically controlling stuff.
Right. And here's why that's healthy. because the people below them get to actually go out and, same thing, own it. Okay. And they get to give, the quote unquote field report back, and questions, concerns, comments. And the people below those captains, same thing, the lieutenants, turn them loose. Stop restricting your people so much. It's okay. Because at the end of the day, is stuff getting done? Yes. Then shut up.
At an exponentially faster rate, I might add.
Yeah.
Exponentially faster
And
rate.
we've always moved at like a geological level. That is one thing that's kind of frustrating about our organization. And I don't know if that's true for others,
It is.
but
We all move at the speed of government.
yeah, I've kind of grown immune to it after 5 years, where I just kind of want an update occasionally, or I finally remember to ask a question, and that sometimes motivates people to get the whatever subject back on the track. Um, but again, being accommodating to the fact that they're busy going off and doing their own crap too, and trying to make sure that all the checklist crap's done also in the process. So it's one of those where you give someone a project, okay, fine, it's fell behind. It is what it is. Don't detonate on it. Just get the damn thing rolling again.
Yeah, the thing I've noticed personally is it's allowed me to take one step back for a little bit bigger picture. Uh, I see a bigger picture of everything that's going on versus even last year, where my time and devotion was dedicated to recruitment and growth and training. Right, that's
Right.
where I put my time, energy, and effort into last year. This year, I've gotten to take one step back out of that and focus on a bigger picture of the whole department, and involve my time into making other decisions and working on other projects that are for the greater good.
Yeah, and from my perspective, it's so nice to have someone else closer to that 30 or 36,000 foot view. Um,
Yeah, because there was no way I could be at that point
no,
prior.
no, no. And unfortunately for our organization, we legitimately need someone at 36,000 feet always. And we can't have someone dropping down into, pattern altitude or approach altitude on this. We just can't, because the picture is changing,
Hmm.
and you've got to have someone up, and it's the same thing for the previous assistant chief before you. Same thing. He every time he tried to climb, he had to get pulled back down.
Yeah, you got into the weeds.
Yeah. And yeah, being able to pair out good, qualified, highly vested individuals, knowledgeable, experienced, and
And try not to beat them to death with just
stupid
stupid and
micromanaging.
overwork. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now the overwork part is kind of their own damn fault too.
Yeah.
So that's that's one of them things where, particularly our horror training battalion chief Gene, he he is a true racehorse. And the problem with the damn racehorses is that they don't stop till they die.
Right.
And I think he's been pushed so hard, oh, I would argue the last year, that he's finally realized, like, oh, I actually have these other people and they're my minions.
Yeah. And he's embraced them.
Yeah.
Well, and part of that's too is just the culture in general, right? Because you're at that captain level, you're kind of you're the bridge between the administrators and the line firemen, right? And then we have that lieutenant layer. They're just the top edge of the worker bees, right? They're just the top edge. They're the translators to translate the information down to where everybody else can understand it. That's
Right.
that's their goal. That's their job. And as that captain role is, you're still too close to one of the guys, right?
Oh, sure.
And that's kind of why, like, our disciplinary committee functions well at that captain level, because they're close enough to the guys, but they're removed enough from the guys that they can make good decisions, but they're close enough to realize that there's a human factor to it, right?
Sure.
And that's why that works real well. You couldn't do the same thing with the lieutenants being in charge of discipline.
No, no, it's too much Lord of the Flies at that point.
Right. Yeah, and then you take it all the way to the chief level on that. Well, then you're so far removed from the average firefighter that you don't tend to you tend to put everything in a box. And it's not necessarily the you're not going to make decisions based upon the entirety of what's going on. You're going to base it on hopefully the organization, but uh it
Well, but to kind of compound what you're talking about, here's the problem with the chief. Ooh, man, how do I want to make this sound?
the ultimate disciplinarian.
Right. Here's the problem. If you, God, this is going to sound so wrong. If you are so close to your membership that you are literally recreating the Disney movie Old Yeller, okay? Someone got snake bit. Man, the fact of the matter is you got to take action. And it can't be a whole bunch of tears and confusion. That's your job. At the end of the day, that is your job. That is your sole purpose on the organization,
Right.
is to make the right decision for the organization. And if you are so close with the membership, which would be typical of a very small or entity, and I get it, I truly get it. It wasn't that long ago that we were there.
Yeah, you're just still so ingrained in the brotherhood, and there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Right. And it's terrible no matter what your firefighter did, that you have to take disciplinary action on it. But particularly with our structure, our human element to this is having the captains on the disciplinary board, because they're the ones that are there more readily available to the crews.
Right.
Okay, so it's the disciplinary board is comprised of the captains. The captains have their cuss and discuss, and they make their recommendation. At the end of the day, they take their recommendation to the chiefs. Okay, and the chiefs are the one that go through and make that presentation to the membership at a business meeting, and basically just lay out the facts of the law and the lay of the land. And do not get me wrong, I am not nearly as cold or unpersonal when it comes to this. At the end of the day, I'm probably one of the worst about trying to figure out how to keep them. But what is best for the organization? That is the decision that has to be made. And it's so much easier to be able to make that decision when you're not their best friend. Now, the problem with that is that sounds cold and terrible and hard, and people listening to this are like, Jesus, he's not spending enough time with his people. Well, I'll turn it back on you. What good is it of the organization if the chief is smothering everyone also? I mean, there's two sides to that story. And I it's really hard to explain, and I'm doing a terrible job of it. But at the end of the day, the captain's job is to be the firefighter's buddy, not the chief.
And to be that hands-on leader too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. To make that impersonation. And do not think for a second that we're not close with our firefighter crews, because we are. Um and it sucks when we have to have disciplinary action or when people decide to leave the organization. Um, but the fact of the matter is that life happens. I'll give you another example of this. So I've got an older gentleman on my department. This is a really nice guy. Okay, really, really nice guy. He's been in the fire service a long damn time. And unfortunately for him, he has a heart made of cheese. And I mean that literally because he has a triple bypass, it seems like weekly now. And he keeps trying to resign from the department because he knows that he can't be there enough to meet our requirements. And for the life of me, I will not let this guy resign. I refuse to allow him to resign because I know why he joined the organization. I know his background. I know his education. I know his experience. But he's never once been able to come close to meeting a single remotest requirement of the entity. But I won't let him resign. And the problem is what is the message that I'm sending to the membership by doing that?
That it's okay to.
It's okay. Don't get me wrong, this gentleman has about every good excuse on the face of the earth to not be able to participate. But unfortunately for me, he's had this the entire time. And unfortunately, for anyone that's aspiring to be a chief, I assure you, it is exceedingly rare that you get the opportunity to just make a cut dry decision. Not if you're doing your job remotely right.
Well, and fact is we're an organization of people,
Right,
for people, by people,
right. Funded by people.
funded by people. And so there's a certain aspect of just good people practices is about the best way I can explain it, right? We have to have good people practices. We've got to treat people with dignity and respect, and we've got to honor those that give, and we've got to build value into the people no matter how difficult that is, right? We Everybody there has some value, and we've got to highlight that value and bring that value forward to where they build esteem with themselves, with their fellow members, uh
Keep talking
to
because
where.
I'm gonna scribble something
Are
down
you
real quick.
scribbling? But we have to do that so that it builds value into the people, which builds value into the organization, right? It's not a it's a two-way street, and it's a circle that builds upon itself, right?
Right. So one of the biggest things that I talk about to the membership is don't equate call volume to the value to the organization.
Right.
Okay. And I have this guy who's the patron saint of Excel. Okay. He hasn't made a call now in probably 7, maybe even 9 years.
He gets credit for some while he's at the meeting.
Okay. But he hasn't gone to a call.
No, he hasn't stepped foot in a truck, right?
He'd probably have a hard time getting him one. Uh,
But he has value.
he is arguably the single most important person to the organization, at least while I'm chief, because Marty, his value is just innumerable to me. He is part of the reason that we hit our ISO 2. He is part of the reason that we get the funding that we get from the city. And then on top of that, he's such a nice, happy, smiling guy, so positive all the damn time that I always accuse him of having a central nervous system problem because I've never seen someone smile that much.
Well, and the converse of that is somebody that has an overinflated estimation of their value,
Yeah,
right?
self-worth.
Self-worth that may not function at a level that's even remotely close to the median, right? The middle of the pack, uh, probably closer to the bottom of the pack, but they certainly feel like they're invaluable, and the whole place will go to hell if I leave.
Right.
And
And it's as a chief, that's a really difficult balance to try and maintain, because at the end of the day, particularly with our organization, uh value is recognized,
right,
not
right.
not professed. And you can't sit there and try and and tell everyone how star spangled awesome you are, because at the end of the day someone's going to look at the shadow you're casting, and man, if it doesn't pass the initial sniff test or the glance test, boy, you open yourself up to a world of hurt off that. And at the end of the day, particularly with our organization, the value to our organization is what is equal to your contribution.
Well, and I would argue that our organization specifically is really good at separating the wheat from the shaft, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. So if your efforts are beneficial to the whole, but the intention is the self benefit, boy, they see right through that in a heartbeat, and they
Well,
hone
because the
in on
problem
it.
is the scales get pulled out.
Right.
And I mean, it's comic book at that point, because the once the scales get, and which is like, that's like a huge problem for a chief. The second that you had the membership starting to pull out the scales of justice against people and equating what you do, how you perform, how you speak, how you interact.
Well, I would argue that the interact and the just general, boy, the you could perform subpar, right? And they're not going to hold that as against you.
No,
It's the
no, it's again the scales. What all falls on that scale? Personality, demeanor, participation, training, interaction,
attitude.
attitude. Guess what the things that we never once mentioned about the value of the scales? Education, proclaiming experience. Like, everything in firefighting is literally hands on. Okay. Even my proclaimed patron saint of value, hands on. Excel worksheets. That man spends 40 plus hours a week entering data into Excel. Like, and gives me some of the rawest, purest, most glorious analytical numbers on the face of this planet. Okay. Don't tell me there's no value in his 40 plus hours a week, 52 weeks a year. He's also just happens to be an exceedingly nice man who also happens to be exceedingly experienced on a fire scene. But the vast majority of the department doesn't see him as a firefighter. They see him more as a cuddly uncle.
Right. Well, the vast majority of them have never seen him on a fire.
Right.
That number's one hand, right?
Yeah, literally. Literally. And
But those that and me, for example, I've been around long enough. I can read people enough. I absolutely have zero doubt in his knowledge or capabilities or experience or any of that stuff. I take it for granted that he has all that. And it's just because I know what he had to do through the time that he was active like that to be in the position he's in now. I
well,
know what he had to do. I know what it was like in the 90s and through that time frame being a volunteer firefighter. I know that. And I know enough of those people that I understand how they work, and most of them don't come out the backside of it the way he has with a smiling, sunny disposition. Most of them are pretty jaded and
Here's
rough, right?
here's another way to look at this. And I'm gonna intentionally swing the spotlight on me. And I'm gonna do it in such a way that's gonna make it repulsive and absolutely loathing. I am easily probably the single most educated person on the department. I have two majors that aren't basket weaving and underwater BB stacking. I started businesses young. I am highly technically skilled, and I've achieved a lot in my very young life in having an airline transport pilot license. I've operated some of the most complex and advanced machinery on this planet. And I'm also probably the single most traveled person on our organization. Now, if I make that my standing point, you will this is why you will listen to me. This is why I should be advanced. I sound like the biggest piece of crap
Yeah, it makes you
on the
prick.
face of the earth. Okay. Because at the end of the day, this is firefighting.
Well,
None of that matters. Okay.
well,
Now, it
and
may help me in firefighting, it may help me in being a lieutenant, a captain, and eventually a chief. Okay. But if I make that my rally cry and you will listen to me, I'm the biggest joke on the face of the earth. No one cares. The fact of the matter is our membership is so diverse and quite frankly so honest that at the end of the day, they want to see your value,
yeah, and
not be told. They want to see it.
I, it's and I'm trying to figure out how to say it not be a prick too, but literally, I have, oh God, let's just call it 20 years of being on a board of a volunteer fire department. 20 years as a board member. I've got 22 years as an officer in a fire department, right? I've got a lot of experience as leadership in a department. And I don't see that as a rite of passage. That's just experience to help me do a better job.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't, for lack of better words, curtailing what you're talking about. I'm not chief because of those things.
No.
I'm chief because I've spent the time on the line with the organization, with people, and also being able to appreciate the direction that the membership wants to go. Everything that I mentioned earlier that now officially makes me the biggest tool on the face of the earth is nothing more than sentence enhancers to theoretically help me be able to guide the organization.
Yeah. Well, it's your chief. I'm assistant chief. Gene's a battalion chief. Kevin's a battalion chief. We're not those positions because of virtue or
Particularly in Kevin's case.
education or knowledge, or it's really not any of those things. It's about the ability to achieve results.
Right. Based on with the consideration of experience.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing that I would add in there, particularly for us, is how do I want to say this? Expressed goals.
Right. It's ability to state a goal and achieve a goal. It's
Right.
about the achievement of success through, with, in conjunction
I'm going to wrap
with
this
the
up.
organization.
I'm going to wrap this up. Okay. Not that we're ending on this note, but at the end of the day, what is our sole job? What is our single purpose?
Train our replacements.
Right. Okay. And and these people, our battalion chiefs, are doing that.
Yes.
They are
Yes.
doing that. And we have finally put them in the position to be able to do that. And that is the difference. The
Yeah.
lieutenants, the way they work with with the firefighters below them and the probationary, the new members, that's what they're doing.
You know,
Our captain, same thing. Battalion chief, same thing. And I know me and you particularly in a circumstance, I don't know how the hell I trained my replacement other than just die and you realize what you're getting into.
well, but the reality is I understand what it is. I do. And I am perfectly content being the number 2. As long as you don't flush. Right? But I realized, because I did in my 30s, I thought, man, this place is not going to survive if I ever left it. And as time went on and the consideration of actually moving on to somewhere else and doing something else became more of a reality in my thought process, I did realize that I'm just a guy. This thing and this organization's been around for over 100 years. Me leaving is not the end of it, right? It's going to carry on, hopefully, long past me. Now, granted, where I left is still carrying on long past me for, 6, 7 years now. Uh, is it the same as what it would have been if I would have been there? Probably not. But does that mean it's wrong? No,
No.
not at all. It's just not what my vision and my efforts would have led it to, or maybe not. Maybe my vision and my efforts would have led it to the same exact place. I have no idea because I moved on to a different thing. And it's not it's insane, and I know of a lot of chiefs, a lot of them that truly believe that they're working and being chiefs on into their 60s and 70s because they believe that, boy, the minute they walk out that door, it's just folding up. They're the glue that's holding the whole thing together. And the reality is, you might be the glue today that's holding it all together for today. But there'll be a new tube of glue that'll show up tomorrow.
Right. And then I'm going to compound what is our sole job?
Train our replacement.
Train our replacements. So if you're in that position where you know emphatically that if you step away, step down, leave, that the organization's in deep trouble, that's a red flag. Okay. Start training your replacement. That's not fair to the
And
organization. It's not fair to the membership, and it's not fair to the community that you serve. You have a responsibility to start training your replacement. Go ahead.
I'm going to add to that, right? Training your replacement is not indoctrinating your replacement to your theory of what it should be,
Right.
right? Training your replacement is leading someone to the knowledge to make decisions to carry it to where you never could carry it to. take it to that place you couldn't get it to, right?
Yeah.
Because and boy, I've got people in my head that I know the thoughts that go through their head at night when they're sitting there going, man, I wish I could retire. I wish I could be done with this. I'm 40, 50 years into a career, and some of them are paid that are doing this exact same this thing where they're 40, 50, 60 years into a career, and there's no reason for them to continue to be there and not enjoy the twilight of their life, because it could end tomorrow, other than their ego is preventing them from relinquishing control to somebody that might have a different idea. Well, I could write on a board right now 15 names that meet this. And I haven't really thought about it until now of seeing these people do these things. And it's just, that's what it is. It's their ego is just standing in the way of them actually enjoying. One, they don't enjoy what they're doing. They're doing it because they feel like they are obligated.
Which is automatically going to make them do the bare minimum.
Right. Bare minimum. They're going to stymie growth. They're going to stymie advancement. They're going to stay true to what they know because what they know is easy, and it's easy to keep doing what we're doing. And they're going to reject new ideas. They're going to reject growth. It's easier to complain about the things that you can't do than it is to do the things that are hard.
So I've had enough to drink tonight. I'll dive down the rabbit hole on this.
Yeah.
So, not in a sober thought, but I have made this exact statement that if the second I step down, we're in trouble. I've actually said that. So,
And at that moment, that may have been true, Matt, right? At that particular moment. But in the grand scheme of things, it's just a blip in the map. There'll be setbacks. There's likely to be big setbacks. But will the rebound happen?
yes, in this case 100%. Like,
I'm
and I
not
truly believe this. Like, if you're ever in the position where you literally are the only thing holding it together, you need to fix that. Like,
right.
that's a catastrophic problem.
That is a problem, and
You have failed.
I have personally felt that, right? I have personally lived that moment where I knew that at that moment that Jesus, it's going to be pandemonium if something were to happen to me. And at that time I wasn't thinking about moving on or doing something different, but if something happens to me, this is going to hell in a handbasket at that moment.
So to take this discussion one step further, we we've achieved a lot.
We're getting into the Rogan podcast kind of area of discussion right here,
Yeah, it's
which
a
is fabulous. I'm proud of this discussion.
okay. We've achieved a lot in 5 years. You and the
Yeah.
previous assistant chief.
Yes.
Okay. Um, what scares me to death is that we're in a plateau phase, which thank God, because
But are we?
I hope so.
I don't think we are. I think we're in a I don't think we're in a plateau phase.
Okay. So
We'll get back to that.
no. Let's here's why we're at a plateau phase.
Right. Go
Okay.
ahead.
The department's growing. Last month was a good reality check on that. I'm going to use the last 3 months. I know it's not an official quarter, but take December, January, and February into account. Okay. We lost, let me go through the math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think 7 members. We lost 7. Okay. But we gained 9.
Right.
So we're plus 1
Or 2.
or 2. We are ISO 2, which we're capped out. Okay. The, oh, this would be a really strong growth, like still uphill part. To say that the Fire Academy is doing well is the understatement of the century. Okay. We are having a fantastic discussion about new stations and new apparatus. Yeah, I just shot my own argument to death. We're nowhere near a plateau. We are actually still going way up. That's just me desperately hoping that we
Hoping
slow
that
down
it slows down, right?
now.
But
Um,
and my argument for we're not in a plateau is completely different from the things you said.
okay.
Okay? So we are taking people that were at a level and accelerating them to a new level, and they're growing and meeting that new level of responsibility and growth to advance to a better place, right? So we're taking those first year lieutenants and now giving them real responsibilities, and they're moving up into a higher level of qualification and responsibility, and the the people that they're replacing are moving up to a higher level of responsibility. So we're accelerating a growth, but it's in a different facet than what we've looked at for the last 3 years.
Okay.
We're not now growing the department in physical size and footprint. We're growing the people now to a higher level of acuity.
Give me a second to process that.
Yeah, that was deep. I'll give you that one. That one was way deep.
Yes. And here's the other part of that. Our fire academy hit a very first.
Yeah, giant milestone.
Okay. We far exceed, we'll call it 60 people. It's hard to keep account.
Right,
It's
because
actually really hard to keep account how many people are part of the fire academy. Okay. So, but I know
it's a
this,
fair assumption to just say we are the largest fire academy in the state of Texas. Hands down, bar none. There is no larger.
period.
Period.
Okay.
Indisputable.
Yes. So, with that statement, our fire academy not only has more non Granbury people in it, it has more non Hood County in it. What I'm saying is that we have a vast majority of people that when I say aren't local, they're not county local coming to us
Mm-hmm.
for training.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're not even district or region local, right?
Right.
We're stretching out into that uh dang near 100-mile radius at this point.
Right. And uh plus 100 mile in talks with another department to try and figure out how to adopt our program. Okay. So there's, yeah, shit. We're not plateaued.
No.
That's the answer. Now,
But
here's
it's
here's
it,
the
it's so interesting that your realization of not plateaued came from a completely different circle than what my realization of not plateaued was.
well, maybe my 36,000-foot view's not nearly as high as I think it is.
That might be it. But but it was, well, and it may be that my 36,000 foot view is not as high as what it should be, because I'm seeing the actual individuals and their growth more than what you're seeing the growth in the individuals.
my my ultimate intent is always the betterment of everyone,
That
everyone,
touches everyone.
everyone,
Everyone.
period. Okay. And I've always been kind of bad at explaining this. So, the intent of having a good local fire academy isn't just for our own membership and benefit, because we have automatic and mutual aid. Okay. So, it makes no sense to just enhance our own membership and tell everyone that comes to our calls and vice versa, we go to their calls and not make them better. Okay. Every single opportunity that we don't take to make everyone outside of our organization better is absolutely foolish. Now,
Well, it's selfish too.
right. Well, but it's what the hell's the name of the snake that eats its own tail? It's like Huron or something like that or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Okay. The problem is that if everything you do is self-centered, all it does is bite you in the ass. Okay. You have got to make your neighbors as strong as you. The weakest link in the chain is that single weakest link. Okay. So if you go in there and titanium alloy and extra forging and extra heat treating only your own department, you're going to make no advancements as a whole. Because the fact of the matter is that from the volunteer world, everything we do is based on mutual and automatic aid. Okay. Now, take that one step further. We sit here and prognosticate, ooh, Granbury, it's so star spangled awesome. Okay. But if we sit there and we internalize everything, okay, then what actual damn use are we to anyone?
We're
Nothing.
not.
We're not.
But,
Okay.
well, we're used to our citizens and blah 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 blah
Well, yeah,
blah.
but
But
Jesus, as much as we advocate for volunteerism and on and on and on, if we don't sit there and actually show the power of
well,
volunteerism,
and bring the profession of volunteerism, right? Let's call it a profession, right? Really strong words. If we don't elevate the profession of volunteerism to a level that is commensurate with non-volunteer, we're not we're not holding up our end of the deal.
right,
We're not. We're falling flat on our face and we're just a bunch of schmucks.
right, you know, and
Boy, the vernacular's strong in this episode.
there's we won't even get to what we were trying to
No,
get
this is
to.
this is this is internet gold right here,
Yeah.
right?
So our goal is, and I mean this, our goal for us is to make our neighbors stronger. And here's why. It's entirely self-centered so that we can show up on scene, get work done, and not be there that long. It's an entirely self-serving statement. But let's really dissect that statement. If we're not on scene that long, what does that mean? That means we showed up and went to work. That
Well,
room and contents fire stayed a room and contents fire. That means that attic fire stayed an attic fire. That means that wildland fire that was 5 or 10 acres only went to 15 or 20. That car accident, it only took 15 minutes before the helicopter landed and out.
so we're trading, and this is occurring to me right now, right? We're trading the members' time for training for a reduced amount of time on scene.
Yes,
So once we get through the big bulk of that initial hard part of the training, it's easier for our members to participate and go run a couple calls in an hour's time and get back to their lives than it is to have that structure fire and spend 8 or 10 hours on scene continuing to mop up and fight and battle for saving the slab.
and have a rekindle for 3 days straight.
Right. And move on to the next thing in their life, whether that next thing is the next call or their kid's birthday
Right.
or their anniversary. I almost said their wife's anniversary, but you can substitute that in, right? It's about maximizing the efficiency of the time that the member is giving.
Right. I mean, it just, it's cyclical, and
Very cyclical.
you can't sit there and internalize it. Here's why. Because if you take your neighboring departments and you make them stronger, how much better is the relationship between the organizations?
Well, and the fact is there's places in this country, and I met one the other day that's up in Connecticut, right? That's doing the good things that are happening. And while the path that they got there is different from our path, and some of the things that they do are very different from the things we do, they have good ideas.
Right.
That's why it worked. I need to know their good ideas so that I can filter out and see if that's something we can do here that improves our ability to do what we're doing.
Yes. Yes.
And and
100%.
and so when I go out into the world and I sit in a meeting or a presentation, and I get called upon. I go to a lot of bigger meetings, statewide meetings that involve a lot of different people from all over, and I get called upon to explain how we do something or why we do something or how this works or why we're doing something the way we're doing it. And I always feel like it comes off as boasting, right? And I know that happens to you, right?
Yeah.
And I've come to the realization only recently that it's not boasting, it's just providing good information. And I can't play down the effects of what some of the decisions we've made and some of the actions we've taken and the roles that we've put out there to get to this end result, right? Which is nowhere near the end. It's barely the middle result.
Right.
I can't play that down, because if I play that down, the next guy's not going to pick up the part of it that they need to start implementing some of that to advance their organization. It's not. I know it sounds conceited, and I know people, I hear it that, oh God, that's that Granbury guy. He's going to tell us how great Granbury is. Well, if I don't tell you how great Granbury is, how in the fuck are you going to figure out how to make your organization better?
Right. I mean, there's a certain point here where being humble,
Is a hindrance.
yeah. I mean, I I get a different angle on it, and because of my job, I get to talk
Right.
to completely different people, and it's it's really incredible sometimes. And I consider it a privilege and a luxury to be able to talk to as many different types of organizations as I do. And there's a point there where sometimes I'm having a conversation and I have to catch myself because I'm being very lecturous. And I'm like, ooh, 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 ooh. I'm so sorry. I'm way out of my lane. Like, but what
But
you're
are you?
what you're talking about, I have extensive experience with. And this is what I found. And this was the repercussions of it. And turned out it was not only a net win, it was a gigantic win.
I think, and part of what is lent to some of the success we've seen, right, is that we do have like actual, outside of even this podcast, intellectual conversations about this stuff, right?
Really?
Yeah, it happens, right? And believe it or not, we don't always agree on some of these things. And we listen and we work out between us what the path is. What's the, you're probably right about this and you're probably right about that, and let's blend this together and go down this path. And I think that's a big part of what's lacking. I think a lot of departments stay in their bubble and they don't engage in any intellectual conversation about anything that has to do with any of it, right? It's that guy's the chief. He said that no matter what, we're supposed to drag that red line to the front door and spray water.
Right.
And that's what we do. And we've saved 9 out of 10 slabs. And 43 hours later on this double wide trailer house fire, we've got it taken care of. There's the frame. See it?
Yep.
It's cleaned off perfectly. We've washed it like 30 times. And it's just, I, I hate to sound like a total prick, but you've got to engage some thinking into this to get past the ego side of it, right?
Well,
You and I, neither one have this giant fucking huge ego that just drives us. It's not what it is.
no. If anything, ooh, well, I'm back in tool territory. We're actually to a detriment on the opposite side. And I'll give you an example. And I'm going to be very vague here, and I'm sorry for everyone. So I happened to be at a show, and I had an opportunity to talk and be with several chiefs. And the things they were describing were almost comical because it's the same. Let me rephrase: these are paid departments. The things that they're having a problem with, oddly enough, are the exact same thing that the volunteers have a problem with. We'll call it the universal theme of the generational gap. Okay, it's the classic. You have bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, just joined the department. They want to go conquer the world. They're kind of difficult to talk to. They're hard to communicate with. But the problem is not them. It's old and busted.
Yeah.
It's the crusty old senior guy. That guy is just shattered. His give a crap gave out years ago, decades ago, and he's only writing to retirement and how to deal with that. And it's just, to me, it's like glaringly obvious.
Well, but you
And
let that guy beat it down until he retires, and then hopefully that next guy
well,
is only half of what he thought he was going to be,
it's
right?
the dinosaur egg analogy. If you let a dinosaur lay enough eggs, he's going to create a whole bunch of baby dinosaurs, and the same damn problem's going to re-pop up time and time again. And you got to go in there and you just got to smash the dinosaur and all the eggs. You don't have a choice in this. And it's like, okay, I get it. You're a paid department. Turn around and make that guy that's giving you hell the captain of the broom closet. You can do that in a paid department. Like, it's so easy, it's disgusting. And it's infuriating. And it's like, you have all these options as a paid department. Don't get me wrong. I understand you can't fire him and on and on. Okay. I'm not telling you to fire him.
Get him,
Just put
get
him
him,
in a position of absolutely no value.
get him out of the way of the guys that are trying to be better.
Right. Big cities do this and they congregate all these guys at one station
Yeah,
on one shift.
at the airport.
Right. Or whatever, a lake station. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Just put all these sourpusses on the same schedule on the same day. Same shift at the same station. That's kind of frustrating, actually, from my perspective. Because it's like, what the hell are you doing? You have all these abilities to actually address that. Whereas volunteer, we don't. And like I said, from my angle, it's very aggravating because you have the ability to sit there and for lack of better words, marginalize, isolate, and mitigate. Volunteer, you don't have that option.
No, because you don't know who's going to be there on that day and who's going to be.
Right.
You don't get that choice. I will tell you, today was an interesting day.
How so?
How so? Today, if you're wondering, today is Friday of the giant winds in Texas,
Okay.
and throughout the day, I would say no less than 15 between the two stations, people showed up to stand by at the station with no stipend, no pay, no
Reimbursement.
reimbursement for the purpose of being able to be available for calls. So if you take that as, and that was at two stations, I don't know what was at the third, but let's assume there was three out there. So 18 people in three stations. The smallest one had three people. The other two divided the other 15. 7.5 people per station. Think we had it covered pretty good.
Yeah, I'm just looking here at the
Old traffic accident?
yeah, we were toned at 25 minutes and 41 seconds after the hour. And we had the first truck en route at 27 minutes and 29 seconds after the hour. So a whole whopping 90 seconds.
Yeah. We didn't get that through coercion, uh bribery. Come on, there's got to be 2 or 3 other ways. Intimidation, altercation. That came through culture, is the word for it.
Yeah.
And so when you're wanting to understand culture and understand how to develop a culture, and that's one of those things that it's very hard for somebody to explain to you how that happens. It's probably easier just to see it. Right, man?
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the most impossible things to try and describe. We're sitting here looking at the call notes,
But you're
and
anemic.
yeah,
Evidently, the deputy got a front row seat for this accident.
yeah. You know what? I think this is a good moment to bring it into the podcast. One, because I'm hammered.
And 2, it's an hour and a half in.
Excellent. I'm going to let you do the close and roll.
Closing it out.
Yeah.
So if you want to reach out to us at ittasteslikeburningcast at gmail.com. Definitely find us on the socials. We're on X and Twitter. We gave up on Reddit. That was the cesspool of the internet, and just, unless you're looking for an argument, that's not the place to be. I don't know how, somebody can frame an argument against what we're doing other than I don't like it because so we avoid that one at all costs. We do have the merch store. It's all in the description. Easiest way to do it, hit that description, go down there, click on whatever you're interested. They're all live links. And definitely reach out. We're looking for those questions. We're looking for those comments. We're looking for someone to to challenge us on something, to give us a better idea, to tell us where we're screwing up. We probably are. That screw up's probably inevitable. So if you feel like it, hit us there. Definitely like, subscribe, do all the good things to help the algorithms, because YouTube hates us because we're not a video. We're just an audio with a still image. But that's their fault because we were pretty popular on the Google podcast before they did away with that and moved us into YouTube. So that's their fault, not mine. They need to figure out how to help us get the traction we were getting in the Google podcast. So with that, this is Jesse.
This Matt.
Have a good evening.